just give you a quick snapshot here where we start with the PTP 100 for relatively small pipes from 7.5 to 14 megabits full for aggregate capacity. The PTP 600 would peak somewhere north of 300 megabits at full capacity, depending on what band you're operating at. The PTP 600 beyond the 5 gig bands does offer solutions in 2.5, the 4.4 to 4.9, and then 4.9 itself for public safety applications. And the PTP 800 as a full duplex radio would stretch up to 368 full duplex. And as I mentioned earlier, 6, 11, 18, and 23 is available today, and 38 will be available here shortly. For specific pricing and configuration on a link for you, I defer you back to Streakwave, and they can model that link and provide you street pricing, if you will, versus MSRP. Spend a few minutes talking about different applications depending on the verticals themselves. I mentioned earlier that we kind of led with the enterprise space, and where do we see PTP 800 being applied in the enterprise market? First and foremost is building-to-building connectivity. So where you have an enterprise that's outgrown its current space, they've opened up a facility across the street or across the parking lot, and rather than paying lease line costs to the local carrier to bridge those two buildings together in their wide area network, they'll establish a very quick microwave link rooftop to rooftop. Very common, very frequent, either as the primary link or the redundant link. We also, and you'll see this in other verticals as well, lease line replacement. Alternatives to those lease lines, as copper degrades, the carriers are paying less attention to them. They're becoming more expensive to handle on a month-over-month basis. Lease line replacement is really aggressively growing. The ROI is very quick and very fast on that. Disaster recovery, wireline redundancy, there's the million-dollar question of what happens to your business or your organization or your entity when the backhoe hits that fiber connection or hits that copper connection. How long is it going to take them to repair it? What's the economic cost of that? It's a relatively small investment to establish an alternate link into a point of presence using a microwave link. Video surveillance, probably more typically a license-exempt application just due to ease of deployment and reduced costs from a licensing standpoint. But if you have a point-to-point network providing access to a flotilla of cameras and you need to aggregate that traffic up at an access point and backhaul it, PTP 800 is an excellent application for that backhaul. Healthcare applications, one of our very first deployments of PTP 800 was for a hospital in Minnesota. It was actually a situation where they were constructing a new highway between the hospital and one of its remote facilities, and they were going to lose their fiber connection for about 18 months as they went through that exercise. And they used PTP 800 to reestablish that link, and I'll be surprised if they actually go back to a lease line connection. But very similar to your enterprise environment where there's remote backup, disaster recovery, business continuity types of applications, connectivity from the hospital to remote office buildings, medical buildings, etc. Basically anywhere where the hospital can reduce its operating expense by making a modest capital investment, they seem to be doing that. Education applications, another great example where it is a single entity with a large geographic space to cover with multiple physical presence across that geography that they need connectivity to. Historically, they would rely on relatively expensive lease lines to make that connectivity. By using E-rate and other funding methods, education organizations are building their own wireless networks, either themselves or relying on third parties to operate them on their behalf. And it's a great application. You typically have an administration building, and that admin building needs to create a ring network to all of the schools, be it elementary, middle, or high school, tech schools, continuing education, etc. So fairly common application in general with some very specific disciplines in terms of remote backup or video surveillance. State and county, local government, as you would expect, Motorola has a fairly significant brand presence in this space. It's a recognized brand. I think you'll find a welcome audience in this particular space with a Motorola PTP 800. Lease line is by far the most common application for PTP 800 in the local government space, be it to reduce operating cost or improve performance of those links. We see quite a few applications for land mobile radio backhaul. where it's either backhauling or, remote RF sites, or the connectivity between the 911 call center and the core of the RF network itself. Service provider applications, this is the single largest market for microwave in the world, is to backhaul mobile carriers and provide connectivity for wireless internet service providers. Wireless internet service providers are complementing their existing license-exempt backhaul network or replacing those links with higher capacity licensed links. Given the common UI on the radio between the 800 and the 500 and the 600, it makes for ease of training and a nice transition platform. The ability to plan networks and manage networks on a common platform is also, at the end of the day, an operating cost savings that many of our wireless internet service providers take advantage of. We have a nice collection of bands from 6 to 38 that allow for different geographic deployments, where if you need long-haul solutions with 6 and 11, if they're relatively short hops, 18 and 23 may very well do the trick. And if it's in a metropolitan environment, very short hops, 38 gig is a great solution if you have access to those licenses. So just to recap, and then we'll move into the Q&A section. Some key advantages. PTP 800 is easy to use and configure. We use PTP Link Planner to plan those links. It'll compile a complete bill of material. You can run your scenarios, test different configurations, understand how that link is going to perform before you purchase it, before you deploy it. So go in with a high degree of confidence. Link Planner itself is very accurate. Years of industry experience and practical experience in that tool. It's reflected in the performance and the output in terms of anticipated performance. Single source delivery through Streakwave. We provide not only the ODU and the compact modem unit itself, but the cables, the installation kits, remote mount kits, all of that, including antennas, available from Motorola through Streakwave. Relatively small form factor on the compact modem unit itself. Takes up very little footprint in the shelter. You can rack mount them side by side in a single rack U high unit, so very efficient from a space standpoint. On the outdoor unit, the ability to connect it directly to the antenna reduces your footprint on the tower and would likely reduce your operating expense in that regard as well. We can operate in both fixed modulation or using, as I described, the adaptive modulation to achieve the performance that you're looking for. Adaptive modulation encoding in particular gives you quite a few benefits at no incremental cost from a manufacturer standpoint. Take advantage of the improved performance, the improved availability, the reduced operating expense, etc. with adaptive coding and modulation. Or if your network requires it or dictates it, sit down on a single modulation rate and execute from there. It is a complete Ethernet point-to-point portfolio. You can combine both PTP 800 with PTP 600 for a pure IP network end-to-end, if that is advantageous to your operational requirements. Capacity as you grow. Didn't spend a great deal of time on this as we went through the slides, but PTP starts as a 10 meg unit. You can license it stepwise all the way up to 368, or you can make incremental jumps, go from 10 to 100 to 200 to 300 if that works for you. The other thing that we can do, and I didn't speak to this, is asymmetric licensing. So if your network is dominated by upstream traffic, for example, a video backhaul network, you can license the upstream side of the radio, for argument's sake, at 200 megabits, and the downstream side for only 10 megabits. So we preserve your capital, and you're investing only in the capacity that you require for that particular link. And if conditions change or your circumstances can change, you can always change that licensing to increase the capacity of the radio itself. You can manage the PTP 800 as well as your broader Motorola portfolio in Wireless Manager, which makes a very seamless management tool, easy to train on, and easy to utilize and manage your network. So that was the very rapid introduction of PTP 800. I'm hoping that I sparked some questions for the crowd, and we can go through those now. Nina, over to you.